All right, let's tackle a really big question here. Hopefully I can do it justice. But this is big. This is huge. Okay? And I'm not just saying that. I'm going to look at you while I say it. This is huge. This is big. All right? You want to know what a limit is. We need to know what a limit is. So let's talk about what a limit is. All right? With a limit, here's some symbols. A limit, as x approaches something, so you're thinking about a limit, reaching your limit. Well, as x gets closer and closer to some value, that value can be a number, that value could be infinity, but as x gets closer and closer to whatever that value is, as we keep putting in values to f of x for x, as we keep putting in values, as we get those values closer and closer to whatever c is, like if we're trying to get closer and closer to 5, as x approaches 5, well, maybe you're putting in values like 4.9, 4.99, 4.999 as we get closer and closer to 5. Not just from this direction, but from the other direction. So like 5.1, 5.01, 5.001. As you can see, we're getting closer and closer to 5 from two different directions, from below it, from less than 5, but also from above 5. Because 5 is somewhere right in the middle of these two things. As we're getting closer and closer to 5, as we're getting closer and closer to 5 here, and I'll make more sense of that. But as we get closer and closer to that numbers, we're putting in different values, getting them really close to this 5, or whatever that value is. What are they getting really, really close to? What is that number that we're getting really, really close to? What is the limit? And that should kind of make sense as we play around with a few of these. So let's look at a graph for a second. All right. All right, so let's look at this function. It looks very linear, but there is a hole right there. And what if we say, well, what is the limit as x approaches 2 for f of x? What is the limit? Well, as x approaches 2, we're talking about getting closer and closer to x, or closer and closer to this 2 value from numbers less than that. So we've got our 0, we've got our 1, we've got 2. Well, as we get really, really close to 2, what kind of numbers are we getting out? What's going on when we put in a 1.9 or a 1.99 or a 1.999? What are we getting out here? But at the same time, because we have 2 right here in the middle, what's happening when we look at 2 from the other direction? We've got 3, 4, 5, and we're getting really, really close to 2 from over here. When we're putting in things like a 2.001, a 2.01, a 2.1. Well, what's happening here is we get really, really close from this direction, 2.1, 2.01, 2.001. I mean, we're getting really, really close to 2 from both directions. And it turns out that we're getting things really, really close to this output, even though there's a hole right here. This output of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're getting really, really close to 5. Even though there's a hole right there, we're getting things like 4.99. On this direction, we're probably getting things like 5.001 over here. We're getting really, really close to 5. We can see that it's converging in both directions to where it, even though when we put in 2 there's a hole, well, as x is getting closer and closer to 2 from both directions, it's clear that we're getting out something like a 5. as we're getting closer and closer to 2, these numbers are getting closer and closer to 5 from both directions. That is the limit. And here's the thing, for a limit to be true, it's got to be getting closer and closer to that number from both directions. If you just see it's getting closer and closer to 5 over here, and over here it's getting closer and closer to 7, then 5's not the limit, because we're not getting closer, we're not converging to the same number from both sides. So in this case, the limit would be 5. We can see that as we get closer and closer from both directions, where that point should be, even though there's no point, has an output of 5. So there's step 1. Hopefully that sheds some light on it and didn't just make you more confused.